Haklasan kan cam 100 points. Ben o sun kismi tamamlayam, butan balamlar tek parka, bosluk x6's ve tam final kumalsil burlesma si kilda asajida. The studio lights were blinding that night. Cameras moved like silent predators, hunting every expression, every blink, every subtle tremor of emotion. Yaman, as always, looked composed, sharp suit, calm smile, the confident aura of a man who had faced every kind of question before. He had done hundreds of interviews, but this one was different. It was live. No scripts, no editing, no second chances. Millions were watching across Europe. The energy in the room was thick, the kind of tension that even the sound engineers could feel in their fingertips. At first, everything went smoothly. The questions were predictable, about his latest series, his training routine, his Italian projects, his charity work. Ken answered them all with charm, his usual mix of humor and sincerity. The audience loved him, laughter and applause filled the air. Then came that moment. The host, a well-known TV presenter famous for pushing boundaries, leaned forward with a sly smile. "Ken," she began softly, "there's a name that's been following you for a while now. And people want to know if it still means something to you." Ken's eyes narrowed slightly, he knew where this was going. "Sara Bluma," she continued. "What comes to your mind when you hear her name?" The atmosphere froze. For a full 3 seconds, Ken didn't move. His smile faded, not dramatically, but slowly, like a sunset disappearing behind the horizon. You could almost hear the audience holding their breath. The camera zoomed in, searching for any flicker of reaction. But there it was, the silence. The kind of silence that says more than 1,000 words ever could. Sara Bluma. That name alone carried weight, rumors, whispers, half-told stories. The tabloids had painted a dozen versions of what happened between them, from passionate love to bitter betrayal. But Ken never confirmed or denied anything. Until now. And in that moment, when the question hit him live on air, his entire composure cracked, just for a second. He looked down, took a breath, and smiled again, but this time, the smile wasn't his usual one. It was forced, tired, the kind of smile you wear when you're trying to convince yourself that you're fine. "Sara," he finally said, his voice softer than usual. "You know, sometimes life brings people together for reasons we only understand later." She was important. The crowd murmured. The host tilted her head, sensing a story beneath the surface. "Important how?" she pressed gently. Ken chuckled nervously, brushing his hair back, a classic move when he was uncomfortable. "I think some things are better left private," he said carefully. "But I'll just say, not everything you read is true. And not everything you don't read is false." That line exploded on social media within minutes. Twitter lit up like fire. Can Yaman admit something about Sara? He still talks about her with emotion-flushed face fire. Did you see his eyes when he said her name? Back in the studio, the host smiled, clearly satisfied she had touched a nerve. Ken leaned back, trying to steer the conversation back to safer ground, but the damage was done. The image of him freezing, pausing, feeling something, was already viral. Clips of that moment began circulating online before the interview even ended. Behind that silence, though, was a storm. For those who knew Ken closely, that single pause spoke volumes. He had moved on publicly, new projects, new countries, new people, but there was something unresolved about Sara. Something he never really talked about. Something that perhaps still haunted him in quiet moments. And for the first time in years, that buried emotion resurfaced, live, raw, unfiltered. The applause sign blinked, the band played a breezy transition riff, and the show cut to a commercial. Only then did the air in the studio start moving again. Crew members rushed in with makeup sponges and water bottles. The host checked her cards, pretending not to watch Ken from the corner of her eye. He kept his posture straight, but his hands betrayed him, one thumb pressed hard against his index finger, the way he did when he needed to anchor himself to the present. His manager edged closer. "We're fine," she whispered, the way people say don't panic when they're about to panic. "We'll pivot." After the break, we take it back to the new project, then charity work. 2 safe questions, you breathe, we're out. Ken nodded, but his gaze drifted toward the giant monitor hanging above the audience. Even muted, it screamed chaos, hashtags flashing in lower thirds, live comments flying like sparks. He froze face screaming in fear, Sara? Did you see his face? This isn't over. The director's countdown started, 5, 4, 3. Back on air, the host smiled with the smoothness of a seasoned pilot landing in a storm. Welcome back. We're here with the incredible Yaman, applause. Cameras pivoted. And we were talking about the power of stories, the pressure of public life, and, well, the internet's curiosity. A ripple of polite laughter. Kim played along, but the earlier pause sat between them like a third guest. Curiosity is natural, he said calmly. It's what makes us human. And yet, the host replied gently, there are names that carry weight. Do you want to clarify anything before the rumors decide for you? It was an escape hatch, offered with velvet gloves. Speak now, on your terms, or let the tide carry the narrative away from you. Kim breathed in. I respect people's privacy, he began. Including my own. I've made mistakes, and I've learned from them. But the thing about the past is, he stopped, choosing his words with surgical care. It doesn't vanish just because you stop talking about it. The audience went quiet. The host didn't push. She turned the conversation toward his new series, his intense training regimen, a charity gala he was spearheading. Ken answered like a pro. The rhythm returned, almost convincing, like a song that found its chorus again. But the earlier note, flat, aching, undeniable, kept vibrating in the background. During the next cutaway, his phone lit up on the armrest, a message from an old friend who never texted during live shows. You okay? Another from his publicist, trending number 2 in Italy, number 5 in Turkey. Keep it measured. No names, no labels. Then one that made his pupils tighten, a contact saved without an emoji, without a last name, just S. It didn't say anything, only 3 dots appearing, disappearing, appearing again. The unsentness of it said everything, hesitation, pride, something like mercy. He swallowed. The director pointed to him, we're rolling. The host ended with a soft landing, you've been candid tonight. Thank you for trusting us. The audience rose, applauding longer than necessary, as if applause could fold over the awkward seams of a live confession that never fully arrived. The credits crawled, the band vamped, the red tally lights died. Silence, real, heavy, uncurated, returned. Backstage, the corridor hummed with controlled panic. A junior producer, cheeks flushed, thrust a tablet at Cannes' manager. Clips already at 200K views. Subtitles are incorrect. People are saying he said important with a past tense regret. The manager pinched her nose. Fix captions. Push the charity pull quote. No regret in any copy. Now. Ken stepped into the green room. The mirror caught him at a bad angle, the hint of fatigue under his eyes, a tension in his jaw. He sank into the sofa, finally letting his shoulders drop. A bottle of water. 2 gulps. He was both grateful and resentful of hydration. His friend from the message appeared at the door, a lanyard flapping against his chest. You did fine. Did I? Can's voice came out quieter than he intended. You didn't lie, the friend said. People can smell that, you know. The truth sits in the body differently. The manager joined them, phone to ear, eyes on fire. We're doing a quick hallway statement for the digital team. 30 seconds. You'll say you appreciate the concern, you ask for kindness, we pivot to the foundation event. Keep it human, keep it vague. Then car. Then home. Ken nodded, but something in him rebelled, softly, stubbornly. Kindness, he repeated, trying the word on like a jacket he hadn't worn in years. He wasn't angry. He wasn't even defensively proud. He was tired. Of being interpreted. Of the chessboard of PR. Of the way a single name could detonate 1,000 unwritten paragraphs. The manager lowered her phone. You don't owe anyone the parts of yourself you're still trying to understand. And yet, he said, I owe myself the honesty of admitting they exist. She blinked, surprised by the clarity in his tone. The friend looked down, almost smiling. 30 seconds, the manager repeated, gentler now. Then we go. In the corridor, a camera on a stabilizer bobbed toward him. The red light bloomed again. Ken met it with steady eyes. Thank you for watching tonight, he began. I know the conversation touched on things people care about. His mouth shaped a careful truth. I've always believed that respect matters more than curiosity. I don't have an announcement, and I don't have a headline. I just have the hope that we can hold space for each other's past without turning it into a weapon. The cameraman lowered the rig. For the first time all night, Ken felt the floor under him, solid, unspectacular, real. The manager exhaled. The friend clapped his shoulder. As they walked toward the exit, his phone vibrated again. The same thread. No words. Just a photo from years ago, unposted, unposed, beautiful in its crooked imperfection, a sunlit doorway, a coffee cup with his initials, and a book left open on page 93. A private language that didn't need a caption. He stopped for the briefest moment, then tucked the phone away and kept moving. Outside, the city's cold night air did what no studio could, it told the truth without speaking. By morning, the world was already on fire. News outlets across Italy, Turkey, and Spain ran the same footage on repeat, the pause, the half-smile, the word important. Talk shows dissected it, body language experts were called in, and headlines screamed theories as if they were facts. Can Yaman still in love with Sara Bluma? His eyes said everything. The truth behind the name he couldn't hide. The internet didn't sleep, and neither did the people who had been waiting for this moment for years, the fans, the critics, the dreamers who once believed in that chemistry they saw between Ken and Sara on screen. The comments flooded in by the millions, mixing nostalgia with curiosity, tenderness with judgment. In the middle of that storm, Ken stayed silent. No posts. No statements. No clarifications. His publicist begged him to control the narrative, but he didn't want to. For once, he wanted the truth to exist without his fingerprints shaping it. But the truth has a way of finding its echo. That evening, a new notification appeared, not a call, not a message, but a story. Sara Bluma, usually silent on social media, had posted for the first time in weeks. It was a simple photo, a cup of coffee on a white table, sunlight spilling through the window, a book open at the same page number he had seen in her earlier message, page 93. No caption, no tag, no emoji. Just the soundless heartbeat of shared history. Within minutes, the world noticed. Sara's response to Ken? Same book, same page, coincidence? The love story is alive. But for Ken, it wasn't about headlines anymore. It was about something smaller. The quiet recognition that some stories don't need words to be understood. He turned off his phone, grabbed his coat, and stepped outside. The evening air was cool, carrying the smell of rain and Roman dust. He walked aimlessly through the narrow streets until he found himself in front of a cafe they used to visit. It was still there, same blue awning, same old man behind the counter. Time had passed, but certain places seemed to wait. He ordered 2 coffees out of habit, then smiled at his own foolishness. The cup steamed gently in front of him, and for a moment he let himself imagine she might walk in, sunglasses on, pretending to be annoyed, asking why he always arrived early. But she didn't. And maybe that was okay. A group of tourists recognized him, whispering and snapping photos from a distance, but he didn't mind. For once, he wasn't acting. He was just being. As the sky darkened, he left some money on the table and started walking again. Each step felt lighter, as if acknowledging the past had finally loosened its grip. The question on live television had cornered him, yes, but maybe it had also freed him. Later that night, back home, he opened his window and listened to the rain. His phone buzzed again, one new message. From Sara. I didn't mean to cause a storm. But maybe it was time the silence broke. He stared at it for a long moment, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. Then he typed, maybe. Maybe silence was the only thing honest between us. He didn't press send. Instead, he deleted the message, shut off the light, and leaned back against the cool glass. Outside, the city shimmered, alive, unbothered, eternal. In another part of the city, Sara sat by her window, scrolling through the noise of the internet. Every headline, every theory, every frame of that pause was everywhere. But what caught her most was none of it, it was the way he had looked down right before he smiled. That small, unguarded second she recognized better than anyone else. Because it was real. She closed her eyes and whispered to herself, he hasn't changed. The next morning, the world had moved on to something else, another celebrity scandal, another piece of breaking news. The storm had passed, as they always do. But for those who watched closely, something had shifted. Ken was quieter in interviews now, but more present. His answers carried a depth that came from living, not pretending. Months later, at a charity gala in Istanbul, a journalist asked him gently, looking back, do you regret that live moment? He smiled, genuinely this time. No, he said simply. It reminded me that sometimes, silence is an answer. And sometimes, it's the most honest one. The crowd smiled, the cameras flashed, but deep down, the words belonged to one person only. That night, after the event, he returned to his hotel and looked at the skyline stretching endlessly. On the table beside him lay a single envelope that had arrived earlier in the day. No sender, just his name written in familiar handwriting. He opened it slowly. Inside was a single photo, the one she had taken years ago, a coffee cup, sunlight, page 93. On the back, in neat handwriting, were 5 words, some stories never really end. Ken stared at it for a long time, his throat tightening. He placed the photo carefully between the pages of his notebook, right at page 93, and closed it. He smiled faintly, whispering to the empty room, no, they don't. And for the first time in a long while, that thought didn't hurt, it felt like peace. Outside, the rain began again, soft, rhythmic, cleansing. The world still talked, still speculated, still demanded answers. But for him, the story had already found its quiet closure. The moment he froze on live television, the name he couldn't hide, the silence that became a confession, all of it had led him here. To acceptance. To calm. To truth. Some questions never need to be answered out loud. And some loves never fade, they just learn to live quietly, between the pauses, in the spaces words can't reach. The world saw him freeze. But maybe, in that stillness, Yaman finally unfroze a part of himself he had kept locked away for far too long.